Chapter 1. A Soldier and a Scientist.
A pale blue dot in an ocean of black, an oasis in the unforgiving seas. It hosted world wars, legends, and romance. It was where men and women laughed, lived, cried, and died.
It hosted both horrors and hopes, cut asunder in one dark, cold day, when the sky descended, and the blackness of the universe took over where life once lived. If the sun was a speck of dust in the average bedroom, then the room would contain less than half of our galaxy, and the nearest star would be less than an inch away. The light from that star would take 5 years through miles of black until it finally reached the planet Earth. All throughout the air of the bedroom, there would be a fog-like density of dust. That black distance between stars is cold, lonely, and often larger than human comprehension. The desperate traversed this darkness long ago, and now the curious retrace their steps.
In the search for answers, 120 men and women have traveled 5 light years to the resting place of humanity's home planet.
Hours pass slowly in the eyes of these weary travelers. The past 10 years have been spent in the same hallways, recreation rooms, and common spaces. All the games have been played, acquaintances made, and all the films have been watched into memory. Today was different, however. The team's saving grace was a trip to the surface of an old, sorrowful world, the one their ancestors once called home. Aboard the ship, the halls have fallen silent, the sound of well-needed rest after their first expedition. Darkness blankets the worlds within and without. Inside, the metal walls and floors are cold. Small robots clean the halls in the form of brushes and vacuums on wheels. Pipes hiss with the sound of heat being transferred out of the ship. Ventilation systems hum and rattle with filtered air. And in bedrooms, from bow to stern, all sleep except one lonely soul. A man who was born without a family, and the family he once found has died long ago. Julius is an old soul, bound to a young vessel. His shaven face and restful expression tell very little of his character. It's his eyes that tell of his wisdom, and his fear of losing what he holds sacred, the sanctity of friends who have not seen war. In younger years, he was a part of an infantry unit in the United Zion Armed Forces, and his body remains a relic of that past. Strength remains in his arms, legs, and core. His scars are hidden by clothes, and the memories of how they got there are kept far from his thoughts. He occupies his mind with the present, to keep himself from the past. His quiet hours are spent learning, to keep himself focused on a task at hand. He reads when he wants to learn, and he writes when he wants to forget. To him, it's as if the bad thoughts leave his mind and become prisoners to the pages. On occasion, he reviews his writing to better understand himself. Most important of all, he must always know himself. In a dark room on the far end of a corridor, Julius holds his leather-bound journal. An oil diffuser glows with a mist that hisses into the dark. The light from which pours onto the pages he marked just hours ago. In immaculate cursive, it reads, January 17th, 5:25 AE. In case anyone wonders who has written these journals, I should give you an account of who I am and the purpose of our expedition. My name is Dr. Julius Winter. I am the second leading engineer on the Mendel Star Explorer. Our goal on this ship is to piece together the history of our home world, Earth, and to preserve the memory of our forefathers. The year is 525 AE, after Earth. Over 500 years ago, we left Earth for reasons that are unclear. Our objectives are to solve the riddle of the sun's death, uncover the forgotten chapters of human history, to rediscover ancient technologies, and most important of all, to find who or what was responsible for the tragedy of Earth. We've just passed Jupiter, our old solar system's largest planet. The sheer mass of it was unlike anything in the Proxima Centauri system. We used it for a retrograde gravity assist, and now the ship is slow enough to approach Earth. We know exactly where it is, thanks to a beacon that started after the sun was destroyed. We're very curious to learn what started that beacon and why. In the dark, There is an alien homeworld which once hosted the miracle of life. Soon, we will make our first landing there, and I simply can't wait. Dr. Winter pulls his eyes away from focus. He does not finish reading his entry, but takes a sigh. He turns the pages until he comes to a blank white space. With pen in hand, he begins to mark the pages in the same perfect form. As we approached, it appeared as if there was a hole growing in the stars before us. The mass grew and blackened the view from the front of the ship. We dispatched drones and they began to float around the black mass. Then, a large flash illuminated the planet from all angles. It was a dark reddish-brown with spots of white ice. The photographs came back to show ruined cities, charred lands, and frozen wastes. Today, we took a trip to the surface for the very first time. The first trip was taken by myself, some assistants, and the head of my department, Dr. Elizabeth Lawrence. The light which reaches this surface was born from distant stars. It diminishes into blackened rock and red dust. This dust is created by cosmic rays, which irradiate carbon compounds. The biological department says they're called tholins, and are commonly found at the edge of a solar system. They're supposed to be prebiotic molecules, which create all life as we know it. This world is the product of an age without heroes or kindness. A monolith that documents humanity's darkest time, where signs of struggle, fear, and sadness are strewn about. It was not beautiful, and not what Dr. Lawrence or I had hoped for. Admittedly, I don't know what we hoped for. A time capsule rather than a graveyard, I guess. We were both amazed and horrified as the first human specimen, a frozen, partly decomposed skeleton. From there, we went down a hill and across the street. There we happened upon an open field, where millions of remains were strapped to hospital beds. Others lay in makeshift bedding, accompanied by the occasional grieving loved one at their side. It all must have happened so quickly, and with no warning. The extinction of the Earthlings seems to be attributed to the death of the sun. Dr. Lawrence and I were urged to take only what we could carry. Most of the technology was useless or broken, and what little could be salvaged is now in the artifact room. Upon boarding the ship, they were examined for contaminants. Everything was cleared, and we begin dissecting in the morning. But I can't sleep. I think we all expected something more uplifting than this. Being on a ship like this is unnatural, and to be here for so long is unbearable. I'm both thrilled and somber, curious about the Earthlings, but haunted by the remains. In my dreams, old friends greet me as if they were alive just yesterday. Jules? The familiar voice calls him from his thoughts. What's up? Julius closes his journal and lifts himself to be seated in bed. His back then rests to the wall at the end of his cot. Dr. Lawrence turns on his bedroom light, and it shines on the pile of books neatly stacked along the walls. Are you writing about today? He sighs with a raise of his eyebrows. Yeah, it's a little morbid. She sits at the edge of his bed and motions for his journal. He hands it to her, and she looks at the pages with intrigue. You're a pretty good writer. Public schools did all right by you. Those public schools were garbage. He laughs. Don't give credit where it isn't due. The bottom of her lids meet her pupils in a smile. She laughs with a shake of her head. Seriously, he laughs. I know. She rests his journal on his bed and stands. Are you going to bed? I can't sleep. Shall we cause trouble? She sways once with her hands behind her back, pivoting on the balls of her feet. What kind of trouble? Julius asks. I'm sneaking artifacts into the lab. Why is that trouble? Dr. Manning says he wants them to stay right where they are. Her hands show air quotes around the words. Manning can mind his own business. Julius looks around for a place to keep his journal safe. Fuck it, he says, stashing his journal under his nightstand. Since you said that, I'm in. He rises to remove his shirt and change into another one. Dr. Lawrence is paralyzed by a large scar which reaches from his forearm up to where his tricep meets his shoulder. Several other marks streak across his back, all of which were previously unknown by Dr. Lawrence. The only other notable mark is the discolored hole in his lower right abdomen. This one she knows because it's hard to hide. He's even joked about it, and it felt like it was truly nothing when it was on its own. Now, amid the ensemble of scars, It shows what lies beneath the surface of his dismissal at the time. In all the time she's known Julius, not once has she seen the large scar across his back. It looks horrible, and it shows in vivid discoloration exactly how far removed they are from one another. There are secrets he holds that are far beyond her understanding. She's wondered how to ask him about the war, but now that the opportunity is in front of her, she sees the vast space between their worlds. She can't say a word, although her mouth is open. It's her best friend. It's plain to see by the look on his face that it's him. But right now, in that body, he seems like nothing more than a stranger. As soon as he's removed his old shirt, he grabs a new one. He lets it fall over his shoulders and drape around his body. "What are we taking apart?" he asks. She catches her wandering thoughts. She remembers now. They were planning to dissect the Earthling's technologies. She manages to find a few words, but they're almost mechanical. "Come, I'll show you," she says. He stretches a sock over his foot and leans forward. "Do we have any coffee?"